I'm so disturbed about the fact that there are people who see dyslexia as a limitation. And I also want to help dyslexics to not see that as a limitation. The world is so much bigger and better if we are thriving than compared to if we are denying ourselves to live to the fullest of our possibilities.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and incredible what you do. Thank you.
So obviously I'm dyslexic. I was diagnosed twice at 8 and 13 years of age, and I have dyscalculia, and I call myself, and pretty much everybody knows me, as Dyslexia Liberator, and I am dyslexia empowerment coach. I help dyslexic adults to be okay with their dyslexia, to really see that as a feature, not a limitation, so they can thrive instead of just survive.
Absolutely, and wonderful. Thank you so much again, one, for being here, and two, for sharing your valuable time with our audience. So you mentioned, can I just dive straight in there, Mallu? You mentioned you were diagnosed twice. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was 8 when I was diagnosed first with dyslexia. So that was expected. It runs in the family. So I had trouble learning to read. And in Finnish school system, you go to school when you are 7 and you're expected to learn to read within the first school year. So I learned to read on some level when I was 3, but I became fluent with reading when I was 9. And I still remember reading the entire episode of subtitles of The Simpsons. It's like, whoa, I can actually read all of this. So that was the moment when I knew that, oh, finally it happened. So I was diagnosed when I was 8, and I was supposed to get all the support that there would be, for reading and everything else. But my teacher, who had the power to also deny all of it, she decided to deny it. So that's it was the sort of the next 5 or 6 years of fighting with her that I'm actually value of something, instead of like, oh, you are dyslexic, so automatically you are stupid, and so let's deny all of learning from you. And then I was 13 and I was quite promising athlete. And I was in a car crash. I was riding a bike and car crashed on me. Thankfully, I wore a helmet because I wouldn't be here otherwise. And so I landed on my head, and left side of my body got nerve paralysis. And I was facing the situation where the sports career was gone. I had to learn to walk again, basically had to learn to use my entire left side of my body again. And because of the brain damage that I had, I was tested again for dyslexia as well. Just because they had to find out how bad the brain damage was.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was believed that if you have brain damage, you become more stupid. And also, at the time, it was believed over here that if you have dyslexia, you are stupid. So with the dyslexia testing, I did 3 IQ tests, because they had to make sure that, how smart I was. And there was supposed to be 1 test first. And they didn't believe that the result would be right. So 2nd test, oh, this is too good. 3rd test, oh, maybe we should believe that, you have brains and some capability on something. So I scored really high on the IQ tests, and then I got all the support that I needed. And I was also lucky to get into high school where the teachers were educated about dyslexia. And also, I have dyscalculia. I always try to say calculexia. I think it sounds better. But at the time, dyscalculia was part of dyslexia. So it was in the same diagnosis. And yeah, so I went to high school, wasn't expected to even cope with it. Graduated from high school. And because all of the help that I had received so far, I've managed to find a way to study that was super helpful for me. It was fast and I was able to learn a lot.
Yeah.
Then I went to college, and college was so boring that I actually went and asked, like, can I speed up my studies? And the dean of the college said that, okay, you have dyslexia. You are not supposed to do really well over here because it's bad. And you seem to have figured out something that other students haven't. And we are actually trying to come up with a solution that everybody would learn better. Can you work with us? So we would come up with the way of studying that would be helpful for everybody. And what came out of that was a studying method that includes most of your senses: reading, hearing, listening, even feeling. And it's used in the colleges in Finland these days. And that was 20 years ago almost. And they are expanding it in some form to elementary schools as well.
That's incredible. So what is the general perspective of if we were to I've traveled to lots of different countries and saw the rawness of dyslexia in lots of different countries, from literally almost from in some of the African countries that I've been into, where they say it's more of a curse than in that sense, and some where they literally don't even know what it means, and other ones saying actually this is not it. And we're very fortunate in the UK, although there's so much that still needs to be done. There's this really great awareness around this. What would you say dyslexia is like in Finland?
I believe it's perceived quite well. We don't have celebrities like you have in UK who are open about dyslexia. So we have only a few people, but it's spoken about and people understand it better. Although there are still lots of people who think that it means that you are stupid or that you cannot read or it's only about reading. But over here, what we have is also the understanding that it might be different with different languages, because Finnish is not the only language we speak here. So it is dyslexia is usually tested against Swedish, which is the other language over here, and in English. So, for example, my diagnosis, even back in the 90s, includes quite many details about which language dyslexia is really bad, and I speak all of them.
When you, it's so interesting. We were, I was due to do before the pandemic happened. I was due to fly out to different countries, and we were going to be doing a documentary, which hopefully was then going to be kind of taken by Netflix and all these different things. So it's a project which is being kind of put on hold, but the gravitas behind it was decoding dyslexia, and it was around how dyslexia is perceived in different languages and how dyslexia affects people. Because I only, I'm British, so I and there's no excuse for being British, but language is not my forte, and I would love, I adore the fact that people can speak lots of different languages. I think it's incredible. So I can only ever see from dyslexia from my point of view. How does that, from a different language point of view, and hopefully, sorry if I'm being naive on this side of it, does the dyslexia, for anyone that's listening and not aware of dyslexia, does it change more with different languages? Is it more harder with certain languages than it's not?
Yes.
That's the question I was trying to get out.
It's kind of a two-sided coin, in a way that speaking other languages actually helps with dyslexia. There has been some studies about that. So I suppose it's empowering because you learn that, okay, I can do this, I can speak this language. But there's a big difference with is the language the kind of where it's written and spoken in the same way, unlike, for example, English, or does it have lots of vowels or consonants?
Yeah.
So for me, the problem is with consonants, which also means that I mix up left and right. Thankfully, not right and wrong, which is I'm rolling with that. But so the problems, for example, with Swedish or German are different than with Finnish or English. So as a comparison, in Finnish, we have far more words than in English, but the words are quite similar. So if I misread something, it turns into something absolutely hilarious, which doesn't happen that often in English. So there's like, in Finnish, my dyslexia offers me lots of laughters.
Wow, that honestly, that's absolutely fascinating, and I hoped when I was going to be doing this kind of this research and this study side of it to learn those things. So I will definitely be contacting you once
Yeah.
that
Yeah, and
comes.
you need to come over to Finland because it's
Yeah, certainly we will definitely do this. I just want to share a couple of comments. Apologies, it comes up LinkedIn user. So whoever has commented on this, thank you so much. But it says, "Wow, this is incredible. It can be very difficult to learn a second language with dyslexia. It's amazing that you speak 3. I think, hats off to you." And Ruth Fenton said, "I find it easier to learn Chinese Mandarin than English, although it's still very hard." That's interesting. So I would think that would be
that's also the sort of interesting thing with dyslexia. You might actually learn a language that is more easier for you. So definitely, and the trick learning a language as a dyslexic, which I suppose it could probably work with anybody else as well, is to learn the language like children do.
okay.
Because that's a sure way to learn a language. We have learned to speak, so it's totally different to learning at school with all
It's
the
amazing.
grammar first, and
That's just got my mind my mind going now. That's really fascinating because I guess we don't take into consideration how much we actually learn as children. Learn to speak, learn to walk, learn to talk. All the all the different things that we do. And I still look back to thinking, when I passed my driving test. I think back now, it's just that whole process at the time was just so difficult. And I know from a dyslexic point of view, it can be even more challenging, especially the theory tests and some of the other things as well. But I guess, has learning always been something that you enjoy doing, or is it something that you push yourself to do? Because I know you're always creating, you're always in that kind of that sector. Do you find learning fun?
No. No. I'm just curious about many things.
Yeah.
So the curiosity is the thing that leads me. So it's a question of finding out what works, like how does this thing work and what is this about. But with learning, what I learned early on, I learned to walk again. So it's like that's the hardest thing to do. And also, I had difficulties to speaking then. So I had a lot of things to do then. But the thing is to communicate with yourself. Sounds weird, but we do it all the time. Is your self, like inner talk, inner voice, self-talk, is it negative? Is it positive? Are you helping yourself to learn, or are you just destroying all of the possibilities to learn? And that's also the thing with a lot of dyslexics is we have learned many things, so many things as children, but we have also learned that we have limitations, and there are people who have told that we are stupid or we cannot learn, or We have learned that we are different. And when we are learning that on very young age, it's something that goes very deeply into our subconscious mind. And that belief is the biggest one to overcome.
What was your mindset? Because I know you do a lot around kind of mindset and the incredible work that you do. What was the kind of the mindset around that time? I mean, that would be a really dark, really tough time, having that accident. And thank goodness that you had a helmet on, and thank goodness for that side of it. What was that period of the time like for you? I mean, I can only imagine it was incredibly tough. And is that giving you then the resilience to do the incredible work that you do helping others?
Most likely, yes. It was hopeful time. I was first, I didn't accept that maybe the sports career is over. Maybe I'm not going to the Olympics. And things that I learned from sports, I was also into all of these like East German and Soviet kind of mental practices that they did to get their sports results better. So that helped me. Who would have known? There was a moment 2 days after the accident when all the sort of the biggest shock was starting to wear off, and that was super painful. Now, the thing is, I was 3 when I learned to meditate. I grew up around mindfulness and meditation and people accepting their neurodiversity.
Yeah.
So I had 10 years of daily practice with meditation at that time. And I was lying in a bed and there was a radio on to keep company for me. And there was a song that I absolutely hated. And I couldn't move to turn the radio off. And so I decided that I need to distract myself. And I looked out of the window, saw blue skies and birds flying. I didn't hear the song anymore. And at some point I noticed there's another song that I don't like. And what I learned later on, that was quite deep meditation where I was. And I started to use that sort of distraction to help me to focus on what I needed to focus, because tell a teenager that you're not going to walk again, or it's up to you.
Yeah.
The teenager will see if it's possible. And so I started to learn all of these things that were super helpful for me. So meditation and mindfulness, but also NLP, hypnosis, things like that. And ever since, I have just improved my skills.
It's phenomenal. How with the meditation side, I do meditation, and it's something that I've done. I need to do it more. I know that whenever I do meditation, I can really go real deep into this. It's just phenomenal. And I don't need to, to sell that to you, because you know exactly, a lot more than I do about meditation. But I know that it helps. And how would you say to try and get into that? Because I guess does it form part of your daily life, or?
Yeah.
The meditation side? How have you got to that? I mean, obviously you've been doing it for quite a long time in that sense. How do you get into that? If say someone was just trying to start doing the meditation, what would you say? How would they be able to kind of start implementing that into their lives?
I would start with mindfulness practice of just being present and implement that on something that you do on daily basis. So let's say you are brushing your teeth in the morning and in the evening. Be very aware of your mouth, your teeth, your toothbrush, things like that.
Yeah.
And without you really noticing, paying attention to it, you are actually spending some time in that mindfulness practice. And that starts to train your brain in a way that you are able to go into deeper and deeper hypnosis, or not hypnosis, meditation, but so it's more about brain waves, when you are going deeper within the meditation or the mindfulness, you are accessing deeper levels of brainwave states where you are able to heal. And doing that in the morning is helpful to keep you focused and present during the day, but also doing that in the evening helps you to sleep well. And what we know about sleeping is it helps to really like clear our brains. There's a fancy word for that, which I don't remember, but there's a full process, like basically your brain is getting a shower. And that, if we manage to do that we are able to get really good sleep, the next day will be a far better dyslexia day.
Yeah.
Because that impacts on what kind of brain overload or brain fog we are experiencing.
Do you think it's we find it difficult to live in the moment and to try and you laugh then like but in that sense, because you mentioned I visualize everything and you mentioned about brushing your teeth. While you were talking, I was literally in my bathroom brushing my teeth, visualizing, looking at the mirror and stuff. I was listening to you. I was just thinking to myself, like that moment of holding the toothbrush, feeling it actually in your hand and feeling it brushing against the actual teeth, that is, isn't it? You are in that moment. Before, I would be, I guess, brushing my teeth thinking, okay, I'm going to be late, or I've got to do this and I've got that, and it would just be a chore, a task, so to speak. Do you think we find, and if you implement that into different things, like driving into work, all the other bits and pieces, do you think we find it difficult to do that, living in the moment as of now?
Yes. There's a reason for that. Let me just grab.
This is not prepared, by the way. This is sorry. I said I'm not going to spring any questions, so that was so many questions on you, and then I just go ahead and ask.
Yeah, so it's definitely. I mean, if you go outside for a walk, do you see people that are listening to the what kind of noises there are, listening to the nature? They have headphones. Or are they watching, like, what kind of trees there are, watching in front of them? They have their phones.
We tend to just kind of sort of look down, don't we?
Yeah.
And I think there was a film on Netflix about a film called Don't Look Up, and it was about catastrophe and climate change. I'm sure it was climate change, but something was kind of happening, and it was really symbolic in the sense that we do tend to just crouch down and look down at everything that's going on. I try my very best to go for walks, and I actually did a little exercise before, and I literally I had to walk somewhere and do something, and I knew it was about a 20-minute walk, and throughout the whole time I didn't look at my phone, but I actually looked up the whole time and made eye contact with people and just looked at things and stuff like this, and it's amazing how many people don't make eye contact in that sense, and it was a really quite a surreal experience.
Yeah. But it has only taken a couple of years to people become like that.
Yeah.
Less eye contact, less contact to other people anyway.
Yeah. There's a lot of distractions. I'm just going to bring this question up, and whether you're able to answer this or not, or we can just look at the question and then we can come back to it. But
sure.
It just says, when you work with adults, what is the biggest stressor you're trying to help them overcome?
That is interesting. Being their biggest enemy.
Yeah.
That's yeah, it has to be that. There's a lot of stress involved as well, on really fighting against yourself and really not allowing you to be the best version of you, and sort of resistance on really allowing you to be you.
Yeah.
And to not really go with the ideas that you have picked from other people, that what you are supposed to do, what you are supposed to be, or who you are supposed to become. And that, that dyslexia is the limitation. That's why I always say it's a feature, not a limitation. It's just our brains are working differently, and that's it. Let's not make it a big limitation. There are other people who are trying to do that for us.
Do you think there is this? I guess this damage. I used terminology damage. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but of maybe going through school or high school, and then the struggles that we find, and then we carry that then into the workplace and all of these different expectations. And I guess the biggest critic for me would be me. As you alluded to, so rightly so, is I would be more critical on my performance or what I do or my career or what I do or everything I do than anyone else could possibly do.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's amplified so much.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing with our subconscious mind. Our beliefs are in the subconscious mind. So, you know how Titanic crashed on the iceberg? The part of the iceberg that we see above the waterline wasn't the part where it crashed. It was the huge iceberg below the waterline. And that's kind of the same way our subconscious mind works. The conscious mind is the part that we are really aware of.
Yeah.
And the subconscious mind is like 80 or 90% of our entire mind. And there we have all of these beliefs that we have formed and we continue forming on. And the subconscious mind doesn't have any filters. It believes everything. So if you keep on saying and listening that dyslexia limits you, that becomes a very strong belief. And there, it's not like you just one day decide that, okay, it's not a limitation. Let me just go with that. Because feelings are always winning the logic. And you are trying to do that with logic. So if you are working with the feelings and with the beliefs deeply, you can change how you are perceiving yourself and everything else. But that's also a practice of really being conscious about how your work performance, for example, is.
Yeah.
And also giving yourself grace for, and allow yourself to have not so great dyslexia day, because if you are really pushing hard, then it's only going to make the day worse, and probably the few days afterwards are going to be pretty bad as well. And if you just continue doing that, you will face burnout.
Are you looking for a social media company that hits the sweet spot? Then please do check out our sponsors, Sweet Social Media, who do incredible work from online training to in-person training to running and managing your social media marketing to get you seen by many, many more businesses. If you comment below Sweet Social Media, you will get a 15% discount on one of their packages. Please do check them out, and thank you so much for being our sponsors. Why do you think the narrative, if we looked at the narrative around dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, generally, when we look at it, we do have incredible what you do and kind of finding that inner strength within someone. But if we're always talking about this, it always leads with a negative, in the sense of I struggle with this, I can't do this, I can't, and as you mentioned about that self-talk, it leads with a negative, and then when we hear of a positive, we grasp hold of it and we think, how can I relate to that positive?
Yeah.
But I think the is changing ever so slightly. But have you experienced that the narrative around it is more pronounced around the negative?
Yes. As an example, there was a documentary on TV a few weeks ago about dyslexia over here, and I got a call right after the documentary asking like, hey, you have dyslexia, right? Yes, I do. So that means that you're stupid, right? Did you just watch the documentary? They explain that doesn't mean that. But yeah, there is that narrative that, and it leads with the negative. Maybe it's because we know only so much about the negative side, and we don't know so much about that positive side, or the positive side is all about it's your superpower, which it might be, but not every day. And then there is what is normal.
Yeah.
What is normal anyway? So do we even know how many people there are really dyslexic, for example, or neurodiverse anyway? And so everything is built for the neuronormal people, or whatever that word is. And
I like that word. You're going to write that down.
We are inventing new words. Yeah, and it comes from obviously from also you are different, so different is wrong.
Yeah.
How about different is just different?
Yeah.
And how about dyslexia is just dyslexia?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I'm just going to bring up a couple of the comments mentioned. It's Lydia Allen, friend of the show.
Oh!
Great person. So I'm not too sure why your profile's not showing up, Lydia, but she put, yes, fantastic way to articulate that. Constantly negotiating with yourself between that, what you want to accomplish and what you think you can accomplish. And I would just mention that as well. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Lydia. Yeah, I guess the expectations around someone who has dyslexia, for instance, they have this, and I've mentioned this a few times on the show as well. They have this, if they're struggling and then they find out they have dyslexia, I guess the narrative around it is, well, you could be the next Richard Branson, or you could be the next, and Steve Jobs and all the other, amazing things. And I'm not saying that they can't, because the sky is the limit. But if you take an individual that's struggling to just get through the hour's lesson within the class and take in the information and the social surroundings and the noise that the student next to them is making with their pen, or, all these different things that's happening, and then we put on top the expectation where you could be the next billionaire. Now, I know there's these big steps that they have to do, but I know that's coming from a place of inspiration, and I aspire to do those things as well, is encourage other individuals. But do you think that sometimes there's a bit of an expectation, as well as sometimes giving them the fact that, oh, well, you've got dyslexia, so you can't do this. So it's almost, you can't do this, you have dyslexia, but you can be the next billionaire.
Yeah, there's a huge gap between of that negative and what could be potentially for you. So especially in school is like, have you met any dyslexic who would have had it easy at school? Yeah. So if you are there knowing that all of this is difficult on some level, and you see all of these other students who are thriving, and it's far more easier for them, and then somebody tells you that you are potentially the next Richard Branson, it's kind of far-fetched.
Yeah.
It's not even slightly possible in your mind.
Yeah.
Whereas that, well, just getting through all of this and just having a good day, might be too far-fetched.
I think it's also as well is what people deem as success.
Yeah.
Is it
always Richard Branson? I'm sure, he finds himself successful, but what is success for you?
Exactly, and I hope over the years that the narrative changes. I'm not saying it's wonderful to have. I guess the Richard Branson is the analogy of that's what you become. But when we're looking at generations, it's we have the celebrity endorsement side of it, mainly in the UK and obviously the US side of it as well. But and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this neurodiversity stories is that we could hear stories from real people. I'm not saying they're not real people, but there's real stories of people living everyday lives and what they find success within themselves.
Exactly. So that's why you are part of the change for sure, for the future. But also, I don't remember who said this, but wonderful saying. Usually behind a successful dyslexic, there is a mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, my mother, who is dyslexic, when my teacher was bullying me, she was always telling me that you cannot let a teacher decide how the rest of your life is going to be. She's going to be there for school for a couple of years, and then she's done. Being in your life, you can make your decisions. And I know that I was very lucky to have that support, but I only had that because my mom didn't have that kind of support when she was at school, and her dyslexia is even far worse than mine. So we need those bad experiences to have support, to have easier experiences.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is having that support and the amazing support you've had with your mum, and having that person in your corner, to help and, to kind of, inspire and just fight for you in that sense, because school can be, school's a tough place anyway. As in,
True.
you're growing up and you're trying to learn and all these different things. And I remember sitting in class, the lessons that I was allowed to sit, because I wasn't allowed to sit many lessons in my high school, secondary school thing, because they deemed I have undiagnosed dyslexia. They just thought I was stupid, so they thought I would be more hassle than to have me there. And I remember just sitting there, and I can still remember the day to this day, and I can remember the smell and the taste and everything about that environment. And I was thinking, why don't I get it? Just why? I was asking myself, like, why don't I get it? Everyone else in the room gets this answer. They know exactly what's going on. Why don't I get it? And that question really, it stayed with me, because for a long time, and I'd walk home from school with like a migraine because I was just trying to work out what was going on. And I just kept saying to myself, is there something wrong with me? Why don't I get it? And I guess I spent most of my school years trying to understand why I just don't get it. And it was almost like I had a block. I just was so unnormal, we use the word normal, than everyone else. I just did not know why. And that really that can really affect you going on.
Yeah. Especially if you still remember the smell.
Yeah.
That's a very deep and strong memory. So how did you get out of that sort of state of mind?
Yeah. So I guess the 5 years I was in school, I was in like a porter cabin, so kind of like a little hut, basically, in the middle of the school playfield. And I remember sensations and feelings and smells. And I remember in the winter there was condensation just all dripping down the windows, and in the summer it was just really, really hot and quite stuffy. And it was those moments that I thought to myself, I would always be thinking, I love space. I love like everything that's almost outside of the earth. I love the earth, but I was always thinking bigger. So I was always thinking like how, I was questioning everything, a bit like yourself, just completely curious of everything that's going on. I think that love of learning has helped me, because I feel like I've been deprived of learning for so many years through my school years, that I just love learning now. But I can't get away. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, as you mentioned, about some of the senses and some of the things that the school side of it has had that effect on me. How I get around it is new experiences, sharing them, and I guess being okay with myself that those moments that I had, there was I accept that.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is trying to move forward and experience other things. But yeah, I don't think I ever really kind of put that to bed, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really been asked that question, but it's a fascinating question, and I will definitely be pondering on it.
Yeah, you should. You should. That's the beautiful thing. Growing up as an adult, you can decide how you are learning.
Yeah.
And that can even be the thing that makes the biggest difference on how your life forms, or you don't have to follow the rules of the school.
How do you learn? So for me, for instance, just give you an
Mhm.
example. I literally learn pretty much if YouTube wasn't invented.
You would have invented that.
I'm not too sure what's going. So I literally absorb. If I'm learning something, anything, I will YouTube something, and then I will go all in. I would become obsessed with this and try and tweak. I'd watch a bit, learn a bit, watch a bit, learn a bit. If it's written form, then I'm really it just loses me. But how do you learn? What's your favorite way of learning?
It depends on the day, really. Some days it's listening, some days it's watching, some days it is really reading. I love to read also, which is kind of, I'm the bookworm dyslexic. But when I'm reading, there's a very certain way of doing notes, and I learned that in the therapy in the late 90s. And what I learned later on, Tim Ferriss, who is also dyslexic, shared his way of making notes, and it was the same way. So that was really interesting. But yes, YouTube, my go-to, but I also love to ask questions and listen from specialists. LinkedIn is like the gold mine for me. I can reach out to so many people and have a quick call with them, ask them about their expertise, and obviously see if I can help them, because it doesn't make any sense to just use their time for my advance.
No, but I completely agree. LinkedIn's been an absolute god saver for me, really, in the connections that we've made. We've connected through LinkedIn, and the community that we've been able to build on this. I just want to bring in Adrian Trace, a fantastic friend of mine. So people need to spill the beans, open up in a safe place. This then reveals where their needs are lacking. We need to understand what is lacking right now. Where you were 5 years ago, or imagining where you want to be in 5 years' time, is not relevant to the process, only in your opinion. Thank you so much for sharing that, Adrian.
Yeah.
How important would you say then is mindset around I know we touched on it briefly, but just now, and you mentioned about the meditation and the mindset and how we set this. How do you think we can start creating that more kind of positive mindset? I know we can kind of do it, live in the moment and the mindset side of it. With all the distractions that are out there, how else do you think we can really start to, I guess, have that inner confidence within ourselves?
Now we are on my favorite topic. So when you are brushing your teeth, if you have a mirror there, say it out loud if you can. I love you. Start doing that kind of work. If you are really looking at yourself in the mirror and you're talking to yourself, that's like 10 times more effective than just saying affirmations or anything like that, without real sort of intention. But also, I find that really learning to love yourself unconditionally, that's where the change really starts to appear. So that's also one of the things, if it's really difficult to change if you have really hated yourself for decades or years. It's like if you would learn a new habit and you would decide that tomorrow I will have my morning routine totally in a different direction, or put on my clothes in different order. Yeah, that won't last for a long time. You will forget it in halfway. But taking the time to be aware of how you are seeing yourself, finding ways to be more positive, and if it's not even available for you to say that I love you, then start with I like you. Start building it from there, because it started from the childhood. You are wrong, you are different, you are wrong. And there were people who amplified that. And then as an adult, you are learning to love yourself. It takes a lot of time, takes effort. But the more and more you are able to do that every day, if you, let's say you misspell something, is your reaction negative? Are you angry to yourself? Like, are you having this massive outburst of I cannot write? Or are you going like, oh well, that happened, let's see what's next? Changing that reaction changes.
That's so powerful, because I guess the connotations is if we spelt something and it's gone out, say if we write a post, for instance, on a social media channel or something else, and it's spelt wrong, and then someone says, oh, by the way, you spelled it wrong, or which I used to get years ago inundated with incredible people that would just remind me that I've spelt something wrong in the inbox, or some would just write the comments on there, and it's almost like, am I angry at myself because I've done that? Or am I angry at myself that it's now going to bring shame? Or am I angry at myself that people are going to think less of me? And as the conversation goes on, it's true, isn't it? It's all about when you look at the mirror and you say, you love yourself first. We see this outside where we want other people to love us and to think we're great, or the other bits and pieces, without really loving ourselves. So what we're portraying to the world is not what we're receiving back, and we're wondering how is that possible?
Yeah, and here's a powerful visual image, if you will, about that. When we are focusing on what other people are thinking, and we might even forget ourselves, we are breathing. It's automatical. There's oxygen going in and out, inhale, exhale. So what we are giving out is the exhale. What's the inhale? If we are not really allowing ourselves to breathe in, we are going to be choking. And so that, if we just have that very negative experience of, well, had a funny, like I missed words on my social media posts, and all of these nasty comments on those bunch of errors that none of the spell checkers noticed. If we are just focusing on the negative, that's the only thing that we are going to experience. But that's also a heavy place to go and change. Hey, I'm doing this in public,
Yeah. I think to myself, like, is that all you took from it? So you put your heart and soul into something, and you write something, it takes you ages to be able to put this out, and you do this, and then you get that, and you're like, that's what you took? Like that?
You want the internet, but hopefully you actually read something.
When do you think people, you get this all the time, people are saying like, when I'm ready to do this, and when I'm ready to do that, and I know, being having dyslexia and ADHD, for myself, that step out to then create more of a public profile, in the sense of doing stories or putting social media posts out, doing talks, and similar to yourself, Mallu, you're doing incredible work, with your, podcasts and all the talks you do, and all the little snippets of wonderful information you do. People must say to you, "Oh, you're brave for doing these things." When do you think would you say that people just need to kind of get started with something if they're doing it? But it's very difficult, isn't it?
It is.
The expectation of being like yourself, what would you say if someone's looking to start something?
Look at your why, because that's the only thing that matters. Why are you doing it? Like really deep down within yourself. What is the reason why you are doing it? And the rest, that's just noise.
Yeah.
There will be always people that don't like your social media content or whatever. But the fact is also that you don't like everybody. So why do you expect that everybody would love you? And sometimes it actually might open their eyes if they are seeing something that disturbs them on some level. And they might notice that, there might be actually something in here. And I have to share this. I have actually got few clients because of that. They were angry I was then writing posts on LinkedIn about dyslexia. And there were a few people who were disturbed. Why are you talking about this? And then I asked them, are you okay with your own dyslexia? Oh, no, I'm not. And they were my coaching clients. So sometimes it's worth it. And it's a difficult thing to ignore all of the other noise. But that's the only way to do it, really. Yeah. I don't know what's the whole thing about being. I have heard that so many times that people say that I'm brave because I'm talking about dyslexia, but I'm so disturbed about the fact that there are people who see dyslexia as a limitation. And I also want to help dyslexics to not see that as a limitation. The world is so much bigger and better if we are thriving than compared to if we are denying ourselves to live to the fullest of our possibilities.
Beautifully put. I can't possibly add to that closing statement, Mallu. It's been we're coming up to our time. It's been incredible. I know there's a whole list of questions that I was going to talk. So we would be absolutely delighted to welcome you back at some point.
Yes,
as a guest again on Neurodiversity Stories. And if people wanted to connect with yourself or get in touch with the amazing work that you do, how I'll put the links and everything else. But please do tell us how people can get in contact and with yourself.
Yeah, so if you are on LinkedIn, I'm easy to find from LinkedIn, and just send me a connection request and DM me. I'm okay with voice messages, love them, and video messages as well. So that's the best way. Obviously, I have a website, so that will be on the show notes. And so next week is Black Friday. I have something very cheap coming about pretty much on the things that we covered here on this discussion. So keep eye on that. And earlier this year, I asked dyslexic adults and dyslexic children what they would love to learn about dyslexia and how they would love to learn how to cope better with dyslexia. So I have a bigger project that is coming out in December. So it's free, and it's my gift to the dyslexia community for supporting my work as well.
That is truly wonderful. And we will definitely be sharing this onto Neurodiversity Stories, and also I'll be sharing it onto my profile as well. I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been incredible. We've touched on a few fantastic topics, which you've been brilliant answering all of them. I can't thank you enough for your time.
Thanks for having me. As I said, Neurodiversity Stories was the first live stream that I watched on LinkedIn, and I'm super happy that I found the show.
Well, that honestly, that gives me the motivation to keep on doing and having wonderful guests like yourself. So have a great rest of the day, and thank you so much again for taking time to speak with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.